He goes counselors to back and fight.
We respectfully acknowledge that the land in which we gather is the unceded traditional territory of the Sicamous. Approval of the agenda. Recommendation that 2-ton plow truck purchase and 2023 Kubota utility vehicle purchase be added as late items under item 9D and 9E, and that the regular council meeting agenda for June 28th, 2023 be approved as amended. Councillor Evans, Councillor Rich, all in favor? Carried. Recommended that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 14th, 2023 be adopted. Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushow, all in favor? Carried. No public hearings, delegation, staff reports. 2022 annual municipal report and statement of financial information. Sarah and Bianca, do you guys want to take that?
Thank you through the chair. So council has been presented with the 2022 annual municipal report. This report was posted online on June 14th. And the public was provided an opportunity to provide input. We have had no submissions from the public. The annual municipal report is a statutory requirement under the community charter. Council must prepare the annual report, public inspection, open meeting before June 30th. And it basically provides an overview of council's strategic priorities, projects, department overviews. So, successes in 2022, goals for 2023, and gives a snapshot of, what the district has been working on, what the priorities are. It is here for you guys to consider. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Council. Bianca?
From the statement of financial information. A lot of different public bodies are required to do these reports, like school districts and stuff like that. So it just outlines, some of our employees and 5,000 council's remuneration, and then also any vendors that make over 25,000. So just for full transparency, that's a requirement. And then a little other tidbits. We've reconciled the financial statements and all of that. So yeah, financial piece.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to read the recommendation that in conjunction with submissions and questions from the public, council has considered and approves the 2022 annual report as presented this 28th day of June, 2023, and that council approved the 2022 statement of financial information as passed. Did I get a mover? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushow. Any more discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. District of Sicamous policy review. Sarah, do you want to take that away and then we'll read the recommendation?
Sure, through the chair. So the purpose of this report was to provide council with an overview of District of Sicamous policies that require minor amendments or are no longer relevant and require repeal. This has been a practice in the past by staff. Our office clerk, Phaedra Kennedy, conducted the review. It's important to note that Human Resources is conducting their own review, as is Development Services. So you'll be seeing those at some point. But again, these are minor amendments or policies that are no longer required because, we have it encompassed in bylaw or they don't apply any longer. A number of them are related to public works that are being repealed. I know Daryl's here to answer any questions on that if you have them. And then just combining our visual identity policy and with our trademark policy, just combining those two. There's no financial implications, legal implications, and we're just hoping that you will consider these suggestions from staff.
Okay, I'm going to read the recommendation that council adopt amendments to the District of Sicamous policies A-27 visual identity, C-6 freedom of the municipality, and PW-9 municipal utility works construction and PW-26 work alone. And that council repeal District of Sicamous policy C-8 trademark usage ERP emergency response plans, E-4 employee and officer education expenses, F-8 sewer connection to phase 1, PW-4 cost sharing on fencing, PW-7 mosquito abatement, PW-8 municipal parks, PW-12 public works utility upgrades, PW-14 septic tanks, PW-16 snow removal equipment, PW-21 water restrictions, and PW-23 cross connection control. Could I get a mover? Council McCabe, seconded by Councillor Bushel. Any discussion, council? All those in favor? Carrie, good job. Okay. Contract Capel Street Water Main Upgrade. Recommendation that the contract for Capel Street West Water Main upsizing and road improvements be awarded to Squalex Resource Management at the bid price of 1.240999, and that council approve a financial plan amendment of 117,000 to be funded by the Capital Roads Reserve. Did I get a mover? Councillor Rich, Councillor Bailey. Kate. Daryl, do you want to take that away and then we'll.
Sure. Through the chair. We put this out to tender in May for a number of weeks. We had 5 interested parties come back with some pricing. It was fairly tight, fairly competitive. The firm, the management company we're recommending came in as the best price. It leaves us still, as per the financial plan, about 117,000 over budget is what we budgeted for. I have had some conversation with the potential proponent, and they are open to looking for ways to cut some corners. And I guess my recommendation is that we need to do them as being the one bid. And then I would explore some savings along the way, if wherever we can. So I mean, it could be some little wins along the way where maybe we can do some things, or I guess worst case scenario, if we wanted to ensure that we were recouping that full amount and not like we have to do something a little more drastic, maybe active transportation lane out of there. So I wouldn't suggest we do that. I think that's kind of a direction we want to go. So asking for permission to enter into negotiations and see how close to the number we can get and get the full deal built.
So I guess one of the questions I would have, Daryl, is the timeline on this, because we've done a little gun shy with the last bridge project. And my second question is, do we have any referrals, like the people that they have done work for before?
Yes, that's part of the process. We did check references. They don't have a huge resume, and I think the pricing may be so they can continue to build the resume. What they have done has been done well, and they're very anxious. We didn't want to be too prescriptive on a window to come in and do this, say in September, October, and then risk not getting it paved in time. So we had a deadline of October to get this all done, and my gut feeling is they want to jump on this fairly quickly. So I would suggest that we go with them. By the end of July, we'll be seeing some activity.
Okay, sounds good. Councillor Bushel?
Through the chair, yeah, Daryl, I know you'll do you want to do the right thing, and I did some homework on the company. And they're very,
Gord, can I get you to shut your mic off and just speak really loud?
very new. They're only 3 years old, so just hoping we really nail them down. And yeah, because it's a big project.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Councillor McCabe?
The active transportation on Capel, is that on the north side or the south side of Capel?
It would be on the south side.
My front yard.
Anyone else, Ian?
No, I'm good. I support it.
Hey, Counselor Rich?
I'm just wondering how long it's gonna take and how much disruption it's gonna be in July on. So,
Yeah, through the chair, it's a valid question. The disruption, we're gonna approve any of the traffic plans. So we're gonna try to minimize what we can, obviously. You know, you're doing a water main, it's gonna be pretty invasive. 6 weeks is the window that they're aiming for to get in and get out. So I think it's gonna be a lot of activity and then gone.
thank you.
Counselor Evans?
Thank you through the chair. The question I have is that can we hold them off till the end of August? Because it's a boat launch area.
Through the chair, I could, I think if we enter into negotiations with them, if I get approval to work with these guys, I will sit down and I'd have to have a really good feeling that we're not going to be extending this to the point where we're late and now we don't have asphalt, but there might be a balance where maybe we can do this after August long or something.
Counselor Bailey?
I mean, I think your original plan, I support it. I think in Canada, you have to expect a little bit of road maintenance in August. That's kind of when we have to do it, but I think as long as we can get it done and if they're ready to go, I mean, this is a challenging time to get contractors and other folks that want to do work. If they want to do work, I'd say don't stop them. It's just kind of my feeling on it.
There's a way just to figure out how to get them down to the boat launch. maybe.
Yeah. Just a traffic mitigation
Lane.
plan would be probably the best.
It's gonna be really important.
Counselor McCabe?
Yeah,
The traffic plan they submit will be pretty important too, because, well, we're the gateway coming north out of the Okanagan, and Capel is your first left turn into Sicamous.
yeah.
So
All right. Anyone else? Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 2-ton plow truck purchase, late item, recommendation that council authorize purchase of a 2023 Ford 550 with dump box plow and sander in the amount of 124,953. Can I get a mover? Counselor Bailey, Counselor Beach. Daryl, take it away.
Okay, there, again, we went out to market for a number of weeks. We actually made some phone calls to get some of the truck builders, some of the vendors looking for this on BC Bid and on our website. We've got nothing back. So it's kind of a unique environment out there. I'll have the same story for the UTV. We put that out and got nothing back. So with this particular truck, it's time sensitive. We need to get this built by winter, ideally. So we've gone locally and we got a price from a local builder here, Jacobson Ford, to put this together for us. We budgeted 120 for it and it came in at about 124. So we're in the ballpark. And that includes trade-in, that's not a trade, so. I would get them going on it right away.
Council, any questions? Call the question. All in favor? Carried.
Truck.
Boop, boop. 2023 Kubota utility vehicle purchase late item. Recommendation, the council approve the purchase of a 2023 Kubota UTV for the purchase price of 41,818 net of trade. Can I get a mover? Counselor Evans, Counselor McCabe, Daryl. No kidding.
We did budget a little bit. Thinking that we might have some competitors playing, and there were some other units that we were contemplating going into this. Again, we put it up for a number of weeks, got nothing back. So we've reached out to Kubota, and it's what we're going to be trading out the door and looking to get anyone in. So yeah, well below the 65 budgeted for, we come in about 41 net. So.
Council, any questions? All in favor? Merry Christmas, Daryl. That's it for you this year. Okay, Parkland Provision Agreement, 01 Sycamore Creek Frontage Road. Recommendation that council authorize the district of Sicamous to enter into the Parkland Provision Agreement and section 219 covenant at 01 Sycamore Creek Frontage Road on this 28th day of June 2023. Could I get a mover? Counselor Beach, Counselor Rich. Scott, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Anderson. So this is the Parkland Provision Agreement. Council saw this in March of 2022. Passed a resolution to remove the old covenant and work towards a new Parkland Provision agreement as part of the subdivision. For council should be familiar with the property. It's 01 Sicamous Creek Frontage Road, right at the south end of the district, where they're creating 14 new lots just north of the creek. Here's the air photo of the property. So this drawing, I believe it's the same one that was considered in March 22. We did add the beach management area to this drawing. But essentially, the old agreement was 0.28 hectares of parkland, and this would be 0.32 hectares of parkland. Trading a bit, kind of the dark green would be turning to the developer, and then the hatch green would be the new parkland area. This would also include a little bit of the new card is a 2-meter walkway coming down from the proposed new cul-de-sac. And then as you can see between the two green areas is a statutory right of way, which would give the public access to the beach. Then there's that beach management area where we would enter into an agreement to manage that area so that the developer doesn't have to. One of the things that was important to the slide here. So to expand that walking beach access, so there'd be more area there. And then one of the things that's important to the owner is to not negatively impact the owner's access to the marina. Property, they're going to want to live in there. So that would be in the contract. And then one other thing that needs to change is right now it actually refers to the riparian areas regulation, which wouldn't necessarily apply to the district's activities. So we'll have to amend that to the Water Sustainability Act, which would apply to our activities. But yeah, I think it's I'd love to say that it was like a real hard negotiation, but the developers kind of offered it up and saw some benefits to the community. And so staff's recommending that we enter into this agreement. So this agreement and the covenant would be registered on title. The old covenant would be removed at the time of subdivision. So kind of as the subdivision is registered, all this would take place, and again, we'd have
Council, any questions? Councilor McKay.
All right. Could we bring up the diagram again, please? Thank you, through chair. Yeah. The dark green we're giving up, which is nice beachfront, and it's 0.28. But we're getting 0.32, but the 0.32 we're getting is basically riparian area. I lost my sketch there. So I'm not sure if this is a good deal for our community, the general public. It's a good deal for the developer because lots 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are now beachfront without a park in front of them. Increases the value of the lots. But you know, I think that's Wiseman Creek there, or River Creek. Yeah, so our park is now basically a riparian area instead of beachfront. I'm not so sure if that's a great deal for our community. Am I looking at that wrong somehow?
Scott, go ahead.
I don't think you're looking at it wrong. I guess one advantage is that it connects now, so there'll be a bit of a loop. And they'll be providing some parking as well. And then if you look at the drawing, like there's the cul-de-sac, and then across the creek, there's a road right of way. So I think it provides some continuity a couple different ways for the community to use the area. But yeah, you're right. You know, we would be giving up some of the beach that would be adjacent to Flockies, and that would be going into those lots. But I think there's a really good advantage to having the continuity, and then yeah, we are getting a little bit more land as well.
Dr. Bailey.
Oh, I can't believe I'm agreeing with council will cave at this point in time during the day. My heart says no.
My brain says, yeah, he has the point.
I mean, I looked at the same thing, right? It's. So I guess my question, so I guess I just want to understand this a little bit more, because this is the first time we're kind of looking at this. Is this, it didn't, other than it come, yeah. Where's the high water mark?
Watermark.
Area?
I would say the high water mark is that. Can't really tell, I would say probably 15 meters. Smoke, pretty yellow it is.
Yeah,
I would say the high water, all the yellow is within the high water mark.
okay. So then just a follow-up question. So during high water periods. And we give away the green section. You wouldn't be able to access any of the park. Other than from maybe the cul-de-sac. This is kind of where so I'm just trying to think about access issues here, because. Here at the cul-de-sac, I see the hatched part. But then in the middle, to get from that hatched part to, you see what I'm looking at here? To the other hatch part, like, is that parked there too, or is that something that's not? So then how?
That'd be a road dedication, that'd be statutory right away for the services, I believe, and I believe it's to be covered through a road dedication.
Okay, and then just one quick other one. Where were we, like, because we have plans to put bathrooms. And I thought one of the ideas around where to put the bathroom would be right by the beach. So was that, I don't know, maybe this is a question for Daryl. Where was it that we were planning on installing the bathrooms here? Or do we have a plan? I guess?
Yeah, initially, they were gonna go up by the entrance here, off at Tecumseh.
Okay. So that plan would have to change.
It would have to be looked at closely. I'm not sure. Not sure.
Is the space?
Yeah.
So much, sorry, Scott, how much beachfront are we giving up?
Well, I mean, I guess
Be-
it depends on your definition of beachfront. Flocky's Beach is, essentially beachfront. We're giving up some land at the back of what would be Flocky's Beach access.
That's Rich.
Through the chair. Oh, sorry.
That's
Sure. I actually went down here last week to take a look. Because my family parks on the highway, my brother does, and swims in the lake there and has for 35 years. The water is still, and we're actually, high water is low this year. We're ahead of our pace. And all the way down is still high water. You'd be standing in weeds right now if you went to the beach, where the other part that we're talking about giving up is sandy, and there is daily users on that. When you come in from Vernon, there's people there with their kids and dogs and stuff. I mean, I would really like to see something where we don't have people coming off the highway, having to park on the highway to get that beach. It's really well used, and maybe it's something that Bob can speak to. Because you use that beach.
I just want to hold on for a second for Bushel first.
So Matt, you want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear where Malcolm and Ian are talking. If you look at where the roundabout is, and if you you zoom in on the yellow, there's a gravel pathway there. And it's right up, it's just to the south of the green band. And that is all, that I've never seen that have water on it. That's really high. And it's the same elevation as the road and the turnaround. So you really, stuff we're giving up is, and if basically the stuff we're giving up there is behind the fence that's there now is really where that fence is. It goes all the way along the gravel walkway, and the fence is right beside the gravel walkway. So it is very high. I know the whole area is riparian, if right to the second red band there. But, you know, I know, Scott, you guys have done a lot of work on this. And yeah, I mean, we're not giving up a lot of prime stuff because the prime stuff is all in the yellow. And over in front of the hotel area, that's another project coming, and I presume, right, Scott? If it comes, when it comes.
Maybe, yeah.
So that's what I was gonna just say is the yellow part, that's shale gravel is really high. It's road elevation height. So you can walk, you can walk from the lift station all the way along there and you're on Flocky's Beach, and we're giving up stuff behind it. Is what Scott's got down there.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I agree with Gord on that. I don't think we're giving up much and I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just a question on waterway.
There's a creek. People still go.
So if we just take a look at where the proposed park is, how would people get across the stream, or is it, when there really isn't much of a stream when we're talking low water? I'm just.
Go ahead, Scott. It's a creek.
Do you want to answer?
Well, part of the second phase development is they're gonna want all those residents to actually be able to walk to the hotel. So I'm sure they're not putting the bridge in until the second phase. Is that correct, Scott?
And we have seen like a drawing, one of the reports showing like different types of bridges that you could use to go across the stream, but again, it's gonna be, it's gonna be a process to build a bridge across the stream.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
I'm wondering if we could. I don't want to delay this, but I'm wondering if we should take a little bit more time on this. I mean, council could pass it tonight. I just don't feel comfortable with, is the trade-off the right trade? And I haven't been out to that site. But if we give up the grassland or whatever it is beyond the beach, are we cutting ourselves off to access the rest of part of the property is kind of my concern. Two is, are we giving up areas that we could put park benches on, bathrooms, all of these sort of implications? So I'd like to know kind of what the consequence of this decision would be. And certainly if we lost the bathrooms or we couldn't put them there, that would be a big problem. For me, but if we have another solution for it, then great. But I don't know if we quite know that right now.
Scott, do you have any idea, or Daryl, do you guys want to take a stab at this?
My opinion, we're not giving up very much and we're getting quite a bit. I think, delaying it a month would have some pretty serious consequences for the development.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Passed, carried. Okay, moving forward. UBCM Complete Communities Grant Housing Committee recommendation. It's a recommendation that council support an application to the UBCM Complete Communities Grant to complete the Sicamous Community Development Assessment and Action Plan, and is prepared to provide overall grant management. There's two recommendations here, so we'll start with that one. Can I have a mover? Malcolm. Second, Councillor Evans. Staff, do you want to give us a?
And thank you, Mayor Anderson. So this is a complete communities grant. We've actually put the application in already for $86,625. Urban Systems prepared that grant application for us. And essentially, it's an analysis of the existing services within the Sicamous, and then to determine the best location for high density, such as townhouses and house flexes. Part of the housing strategy, And this grant is looking to provide access or to provide an assessment of community completeness, so eligible for housing, transportation, daily needs and infrastructure. So yeah, this is one that Urban Systems is a really good fit for because they already have all our data, they already know the infrastructure, and we feel that, yeah, kind of sole sourcing Urban Systems is a smart move. And the idea is to get a little bit of money to just determine, where our services are, and what they can handle. An example would be if somebody wanted to build a fourplex, do we have the fire flows that could actually serve that size of building? So we want to know where those areas are, and then we can zone our land accordingly. And every developer that comes in won't have to provide their own assessment of the infrastructure. That obviously can be costly. So there are two parts to the recommendation. The first part is that council supports the grant application, which is required to be submitted, just grant application. And then the other part is that we are essentially sole sourcing the contractor, which is Urban Systems, and that complies with our policy 5 of our purchase.
Thanks, Scott. Council, any comments? Councilor Rich.
Just a quick question. Is this something that we already know? Like, we've got the lift stations, we've got Daryl, we've got Brett. So do we kind of, like, it's a pretty small town. It's not like we're talking about Surrey. So do we know where we can put in density? That's a Daryl question.
Yeah, so through the chair, we'd actually put in the budget for this year to get some modeling done, just so we have the ability to know quickly what each area could support in terms of lift stations, and we are doing a bigger review on the wastewater plant at the end of the line. So it meshes well with that. It's good data for us, and provides some good infrastructure background knowledge.
Does it mesh well, or is it overkill? Because we have the ability to get a grant, doesn't mean that we necessarily need to go for the grant, is what I'm saying. There's other communities that could probably use it. And I have to agree with Councillor Rich. I think that we already have this information, and now the only winner in this is Urban Systems because they're getting the grant funding, and then we're going to have to pay for everything else that comes after that. So I personally won't be voting for this because I feel like we already have this information, and it's a bit of overkill, and we're getting back into which 6 years ago, being on council, we got away from all of the contractors and the consultants that we were using, and started taking care of business on our own. And we started moving a lot faster. So those are my comments. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I read carefully through this one. And I looked at what they were proposing and what the deliverables, I think, for us would be, and the timelines that they're looking at, about 8 months. I mean, there was a couple of questions that came to my mind. I'd prefer that this comes to council before it obviously gets submitted. That didn't happen in this case, but I think best practice, it should come. I noticed that there was another intake in January, so we could have done it then. But that aside, just the merits of the report, I don't see a lot. I don't see a lot of information that would come out of this that we don't already know. I think we're at the stage of where we've done lots of studying. We've done lots of looking at the housing question. Certainly the housing committee has done a tremendous job creating a report, and it's very comprehensive, and council has adopted that. I would hate to see us wait 8 months to get going on any of this stuff for this sort of information, which I don't think any information that comes out of this report is going to change our mind that we want to densify, or that we're going to do everything we can to actually have some of these projects take flight. So I think probably another community could use these funds more. $86,000 is a lot of money. I mean, if we were paying for that, that's 2% tax increase. And maybe that bang for the buck would be somewhere better than here. So
Anyone else? Counselor McCabe.
Yeah, this is, staff is recommending that we support this, so obviously they see the need for it. I don't think we have to match dollars on this funding. So it's not going to increase the resources of staff or impact their capacity because it'll be done by a consultant. Councillor Bailey is right. This will take 8 months, but it'll take 8 months from whenever it starts. It's an 8-month time frame. If we move to January, then it's 8 months from whenever after January they start. So I think we should move forward on this. I support it because it'll be a good database to quickly refer to. And it'll take 8 months from whenever if we're successful with the grant and whenever the contract, your urban system starts. So
Thanks.
probably looking at about a year, I guess, I would think.
Thanks, Counselor McCabe. Anyone else? Counselor Bushel.
Through the chair, Scott, when did we have to pay to get this actually done? Like, did we have to pay urban systems to draft that? Or is it part of the grant application that they'll take the funds out of that?
So. Sorry, through the chair.
Mhm.
So typically they prepare for free, knowing that, at the end, they do get some work out of it.
Yeah, okay.
But we don't have to choose them necessarily. If we are successful with grant, we don't have to choose urban systems, although asking someone else to do it. So if we went to Spaces or whoever to do this study, they have to go to urban systems, get all our information from them because they house our data, right?
Counselor Rich and then Counselor Evans.
Through the chair, just kind of going with the urban system thing, but do we own that? Like, do we own that information? So if, like if I go to my doctor, I own my files. So if I switch doctors, I can take my files with me. So.
I think you'd have to think like your files are in Chinese and your new doctor doesn't speak Chinese.
Okay.
Take a long time for them to figure out what's wrong.
Okay.
Counselor Evans.
Yeah, I would support this because the housing committee thinks it's a good idea and so does the staff. I want to back them on that.
Anyone else? Counselor Bushel.
Just, I wasn't 100% sure. Daryl, did you say this would be useful information for you?
Well, through the chair, there's components of this grant that I think were items that we were looking at modeling this year. So, I can't speak to the whole thing with the housing tide, but definitely the lift station components would be helpful. And if this doesn't get done, it is something we budgeted for to get the modeling done for our lift stations this year. So that needs to get done at some point.
Counselor Rich.
Thanks.
Sorry, through the chair. So if we decide to vote yes on this grant, what you're saying is then we're not using staff time or paying someone else to come out with that information from the lift stations?
Through the chair, they would still need staff support to get them rolling and get them some information, but for the most part, they would do the work. They would run the models and the lift stations are a tricky thing because you can look at what it does, but where it's tied into has a big impact too, right? So when you're adding something over here and it's going through 2 lift stations to get there, there's some metrics we can't run as staff. You need
Counselor Bailey.
Okay, so then I guess the other question is that $86,000 worth of information? I don't want to put it on that.
For myself, it's just a piece of it.
A piece of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think this is what I'm really struggling with. And I mean, it's, as you said, Counselor, it's 8 months when it gets supported or we get the grant. So what does this mean to our housing strategy that we're going to wait for this component to go forward on something? Because at this point, I really think where we are with the housing strategy is we got to find people to build this. I mean, I think we're out there trying to find developers and people to come into the town and invest, and we should be trying to take a look at co-op options and other things that we have to activate the land that we have and the plan that we just put together. Not necessarily waiting for another study. And it's kind of my feeling on it, but.
Councillor McCabe.
Just respond, I don't think this is a singular path. This isn't a critical path. We don't need this study to move forward with their housing. Whenever this is completed and done, it'll augment it and help things move along, but this isn't a critical path. This is not singular. It's just another tool in the toolbox.
Councillor Rich.
Sorry, we're beating the dog to death.
We are.
Does it affect, and I knew through the chair, Kelly, when we get some grants, then do they look at how many grants we get? And then when we want more grants, like, does it affect our grant application if we ask for too many?
I would say for these smaller UBCM ones, not really. It's only for those larger infrastructure buckets that really, they would look at that. These ones, they're like a dime a dozen. They're always coming up. And also just for clarity, so we have 30,000 budgeted for some engineering work. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we do this grant, then we don't have to spend that money on the 30,000.
Well, I would need to look closely.
Maybe 10?
The scope, yeah, we may need some of
Okay.
it still. They might cover it all. I don't.
Okay.
know how to get it.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll vote on the first recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? Two opposed. Okay, recommendation in accordance with policy F5, urban systems prepared the UBCM Complete Communities Grant as the project is a follow-up assignment that is most appropriately done by the original contractor. Can I get a mover? Gord? Sorry, discussion.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's my other issue with this. I don't think it should be a sole source $86,000 contract. I don't believe that we should be doing that. I mean, if we get this grant, normally there's a certain dollar value you cap sole source contracts at. And I think 86,000 would be beyond that. So yeah, I voted against the first one, so I'm going to vote against this. But I actually don't think it's best practice to be doing $86,000 sole source contracts, but especially for this type of work. But that's my comments.
Anyone else? Council? Okay, it's called question. All in favor? Opposed? 3 opposed. Carried.
Just barely.
That's weaker.
It's already the grant applications already gone in.
Housing Accelerator Fund, Housing Committee recommendation. Recommendation that council support the Housing Accelerator Fund action plan in principle and direct staff to proceed with the preparation of the grant application through the Housing Accelerator Fund. Scott, did you want to talk to that?
Sure. So this is part of our housing strategy. So the action plan is to encourage secondary units, townhouses and houseplexes, encourage rental housing, encourage accessory units, encourage infrastructure capacity. This one is a really weird grant to apply for. A lot of projections. I met with the people at CMHC when I was at the Planning Institute. They hosted an event and they knew about us. They knew about our housing strategy. They were there. I had been on a couple webinars with them on discussing it. So yeah, they're very much aware of it. And they recognize what we're doing with our housing strategy. And if anybody has any questions about our housing strategy, they're all on Zoom. Go and watch them. And as Councilor Harry described it, it's a master's class on housing, and it will answer all your questions. So here this table here kind of breaks it down, but basically we have 17 units, which is a number that we're working with today. By the time the application could be 30 units. Working on projections here. So say if we had We're saying we're gonna add 17 housing units to our community. They will give us $20,000 per unit start. And then if those units actually happen, they'll bump that up to $12,000. You get $32,000 per unit. And if those 17 units are affordable housing units, up to $19,000. And so then we get a total of $51,000 per unit. So it works out to 867. So do the math, if it's 20 or 30, it could go up and up. So this is, a lot of money. It's a lot of work, put all this information together. And Sarah's been working on it for a couple months. So I guess you can look at the second table and it talks about our initiatives. So secondary dwelling units, step one. So this is kind of what they're saying they'll pay for, right? So they look at this work, and as we implement this, we get these units and they'll give us money for them. So, the first one is, secondary dwelling units. Step one is the R1 zone amendment. So council saw that at the last council meeting, so we're moving through that. Step two is that plan library. So we set up that expression of interest to get that plan library started. But we actually have the money for that right now. And then the third step is implementation of the plan library. So we have our 3 plans, but then how are we implementing it? So we could use the money for implementation of the plan library. The other one of our other goals is the townhouses and house plexes. Step one is who's got the infrastructure. Do we have the infrastructure that is for a fourplex and where? So that was actually the previous grant, complete community grant. So that would actually make it so we don't need that grant. There's $1 million towards that, but we actually have to do that study. Get the units, get the top up, get the affordable to actually build out the grant. So the other one is OCP review and procedures bylaw. So we can't really amend our OCP unless we know where we put infrastructure, but we can't zone the tree streets and blocking the street R4 to allow the town to let we have an infrastructure. So that's again back to that infrastructure grant. And then step 3 is implement new zones and development permit areas. So that's how we get that goal. Rental units, so a partnership that we're looking at. So Main Street, the EOI on Main Street. So then the next step, once we get the partnership, we have to look at our tax exemption bylaws, our DCC and other incentives. So we have to look at those, come up with those. And so this money out of this pool could actually fund that, the DCC tax incentives. And then, it's the implementation, building and everything else. Another one, accessible units. So, we want to create accessible units. So, that's where we have, partnership of the Senior Housing Society. We can consider tax rates or development incentives for that development. That money for that could come out of this fund. We could fund those. So, help out the Senior Housing Society. It's not be a burden on anybody in schools. We actually get money from CMHC, and then we implement that. And then land development and infrastructure review. So going back, let's look for land for co-ops. Let's look for Holly Ave. Holly Ave right now is a big wide road right away. We want to turn Holly Ave into, an R1 zone. Well, let's do an assessment and review of that. That's going to cost money. So that money comes from this fund. And then we come up with a multi-year capital plan. That multi-year capital plan comes from this fund. And then we have opportunities to pursue other grants that we build out or search other partners that we build those plans, build those plans. Yeah, so we start with 17 units, you end up with $867,000. If we work in our projections, we can, fine tune the numbers. We can bump this up to 30. We're talking almost $2 million. And then we have $2 million to spend kind of anywhere in this grid. And it's not specific. We're not saying that spend 80% here or 20% here. It's like we have a big pool of money. We can actually start implementing the housing strategy.
Thanks, Scott. Council, any questions? Councillor Rich?
Sarah did a great job on this report. I'm part of the housing committee and we spent a lot of time on this a couple of weeks ago. I really think this is a great grant to do. 2 things was we can backdate it. to 2022, correct, Scott? And Sarah also spoke about maybe putting together where we could actually use the money and like loan it out. And then when they pay it back, we've made interest and then we can give it to the next guy to help them build and encourage that way through Sicamous. So it's super flexible, not a set amount of money, but you know, if we play our cards right, it could be really useful to getting some housing in and getting it in quickly. I support this.
Anyone else? Can I get a mover on this? Thanks, Councillor Rich, Councillor Evans. Anyone else? Okay, it's called the question. All in favor? Carried. You guys thought I forgot. Oh, I did. I had to ask Sarah. Okay, resolutions, District of Sicamous Parks and Trails Master Plan recommendation that council approve the District of Sicamous Parks and Trails Master Plan on this 28th day of June 2023. Can I get a mover? Councillor Evans, Councillor Rich, Scott, take it away.
So this is the Park and Trails Master Plan. I think we thought this at the committee of the whole a couple months ago. And we did go up after the committee of the whole and put it out to the public again, and we didn't get any feedback on it. The Park and Trails Master Plan essentially started that, you know, during the Safe Green Space campaign, and we were like, well, how much green space do we have? How much do we need? How do we classify it? What do people want to see? So we put Steffi to work and she came up with this Parks and Trails Master Plan. It's an inventory of our parks and trails, and then it also classifies them as types. And then it also provides some recommendations. Kind of the highlight of the recommendations are the Blueways strategy, winter parks, looking at our bylaws. All our parks are kind of in, you know, some of them are by policy, some of them are just donated land, and then some of them are in the bylaws. So I think, you know, having a look at those bylaws and policies, wayfinding signage. And then it also will be a really good tool when, you know, we do look at our parks budget. You know, we have some parks that are priorities and we can put the money in those places. So yeah, a lot of work went into this, and recommending that council adopt it.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushel.
Comment, just the excellency of Steffi's work on this.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, I gotta commend Steffi. She did a great job, and she she listens well, and she's made all the adjustments that we've all talked about, and she's easy to work with. So she did a great job with this. Thanks, Scott. Your team.
Anyone else? Thanks, Scott. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we've got correspondence. Does anybody want to speak to the correspondence? Go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
Might as well. The KIJHL, it's nice that that's the best AGM they had in 20 years. Got to make you feel good about Sicamous. Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't give ourselves enough credit. We do a great job. Anyone else? Okay. Any questions from the gallery or those online? No, Steve. Questions? Deb, you got nothing? Anyone online? Okay. That's a wrap. Okay, recommendation that the regular council meeting for June 28th, 2023 be adjourned at the time being 5:54, 5:58.
Ever.
See the clock. It just